for.
I completely agree. And I agree with you that I, along the way, now I would not put my guys in a tank until they had finished up the first 10 days of the Headspace app. Which is a meditation app, because you can't take it. You can't take a 19-year-old kid and throw him in there with no skills.
That's right.
So meditation is a skill. It's a frequency, it's an intensity, it's a time, it's a duration. So you got to build that skill. So once I put them in the tank, they had the ability to go into a deep meditative state and man. Now, honestly, I had some guys who couldn't do it.
Sure.
Oh, by the way, we couldn't get their HRV above 75 milliseconds.
Right. I would say meditation will raise HRV too. Quite
absolutely.
Honestly. Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's good tools. There's really good tools. And they're out there, they're available.
Yeah.
And
Heart Math is one, some of the meditation.
Love Heart Math.
Things like that. Yeah. So these are, if you're listening to this and you're curious about raising your HRV, learning to meditate or using something like Heart Math to kind of coach you into a meditative state can be helpful. Brain Tap can be super helpful in that regard.
I thought I had one sitting here on the side of my desk.
No, they're really good. You can go into a theta state with that, where you're kind of in that semi-awake, and you can be so relaxed. It's really good before you go to bed, but that will raise HRV. And then I'm really curious about the supplement. I've seen it, but I haven't really used it with any frequency. I'm also curious about the skin cream. That would be fun to try.
We'll get you some both. So I'll tell you a funny Heart Math story. I think you'll like it. So my Olympic gold medalist, his name was Kyle Snyder. So this is in 2018. This is 2 years after he's won his gold medal. He's won another world championship by now. He's not lost a wrestling match in 3 years. We're wrestling the University of Michigan, which is our arch rival.
Right.
And Michigan that year had a wrestler that was also a world champion.
Okay.
But Kyle he internationally wrestles 97 kgs, which he walked around our wrestling room about 230 most days.
Mm-hmm.
So this kid he's wrestling from Michigan walks around the room at about 290, and he has to cut weight to make 275. This guy's got a 700-pound squat. I mean, he's a beast. Mm-hmm. And he's a world champion. Okay. He's very good.
Right.
So in the dual meet up in Michigan, so I measured guys' HRV every morning, right when they woke up. We weren't using nighttime measurement yet. We were still using omega waves back then.
Yeah.
And got the lowest reading from him I had in years. Now, I didn't say anything. Whenever I measured the guys in the morning, they knew all I was going to say. You look great. You're ready to go. Good job. Because by that time, I can't change much.
Right.
But he goes out and he lost that dual meet. First match he's lost at any level in 3 years.
Yep.
That morning, his HRV was the lowest RMSSD, the lowest, what is the typical HRV measurement you see. And it was in the 50 millisecond range, which 50 milliseconds for a dual meet is not bad. For a tournament, it's awful.
Right.
Well, I brought him home and I sat him down in my office. I said, tell me about what was going on in your head that day. And I asked the stupidest question I could have asked. I said, were you fearful? You never ask a 20-year-old Olympic gold medalist if he's fearful. But he starts giving me this raft. And I said, wait a minute. I said, let me show you what I saw. So if you look at HRV, there's a way that you can analyze it using frequency analysis. There's what's called low frequency and high frequency.
Yep.
Low frequency is typically sympathetic state.
That's right.
High frequency is parasympathetic state.
Exactly.
His LF-HF ratio was 20. And I'm used to having my guys below 1. Okay. Oh. So he said, so what should I do? So I hand him a Heart Math inner balance. We hook it up on his phone. He gamifies this thing and he goes off. So if you've used Heart Math, you know that there's levels of challenge. Right. He was in their highest challenge level by the end of the day.
Oh, wow.
He's an Olympic gold medalist. He does everything to the extreme.
Yeah. He can control his nervous system is what it boils down to.
Well, he wrestled this kid 2 more times, once in the Big Ten finals and once in the national finals, beat him twice. We never had an LF-HF ratio greater than 2.
Okay.
So we went from 20 to 2. I never got below 1, but we were able to boost. And you know what, Dr. Gladden, I don't know if you can boost. I don't know if you can lower sympathetic. I don't know if you can lower perceived fear.
You can lower sympathetic. It's definitely possible. You can also raise parasympathetic. And
we do that a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure you can raise parasympathetic. But you can lower sympathetic also. It comes from a different change in perspective, right? a lot of it has to do with, in my experience, is not being attached to the outcome.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're attached to the outcome, then there's stress. When you're no longer attached to the outcome, right, then
sports psychology.
Right?
Sports psychology.
It melts away. Yeah.
Well, listen, for me as an athlete, this was a huge part for me, is that I had to stop competing and start performing. When I did that, I got really good.
Right.
And you know what? Stephen Kotler, who wrote the book Stealing Fire, Rise of Superman. Stephen and I have gotten to be friends over the years, and we've sat. Now, I'm not sure you can send a warrior out and have reduced sympathetic, but I do know you can send that warrior in. And I personally believe flow, this concept of flow, comes from a co-engaged sympathetic parasympathetic. I need both.
Agreed.
To really get flow.
To me, flow is a meditative state in action.
Yes.
Right.
And there's got to be just a little bit on the line. You know, you got to have just a little bit.
There is. And he talks about that in The Rise of Superman. You know, if you're looking down that, ski run or that river that you're about to kayak or whatever it is, and you don't have a sense of, holy shit, I'm going to go all in on this, or I'm going to be dead.
The hill you're climbing with your mountain bike.
That's enough to throw you into the flow state, right? If you're 105%, you're fine. If it's 120%, you back out, right? Yep. It's too much. You can't get to flow, right? So, yeah. Right.
But the key, I call it the rocks in the jar. You remember Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and the demo he does about putting the big rocks in the jar, then the gravel. Right. I think with longevity and biohacking, we have a tendency to get obsessed with gravel and sand. We lose focus on the big rocks. You guys get it. My first big rock is movement. You hack movement with exercise, and there's any number of ways to hack that. Blood flow restriction training, using heart rate, all the things we've discussed. Yep. My second rock is nutrient dense food. Yeah. And you hack that with supplements. My third rock is sleep. Yeah. You can't hack sleep, but you can hack the sleep environment. And then finally, my fourth rock is light. You've got to get light of the right wavelength on your skin and in your eyes at the right time of day, and keep the toxic or the non-nutritive light out of your eyes.
That's right.
And off your skin. Those are my 4 big rocks, but they all go into the jar of purpose. You have to have a reason to wake up every morning, because our environment around us is driving us away from moving more, from nutrient-dense food to shorter sleep cycles and to crappy light. You have to have a purpose.